Hello, everyone. Welcome to Women in Retail Talks, the podcast where C-suite executive women in the retail space share their stories of professional growth, leadership development, personal journeys, and more. I'm Melissa Campanelli, the co-founder of the Women in Retail Leadership Circle, and we're a membership-based community of senior-level women in retail. And I'm joined today by the lovely Davida Lindsay-Bell, who is the Chief People Officer and a board director with expertise in leadership, governance, and enterprise transformation. She advises CEOs and boards on succession planning, organizational design, compensation strategy, and workforce risk with a focus on long-term value creation and enterprise resilience. She's currently the Chief People Officer at Hanna Andersson, which is a heritage children's apparel brand known for its high-quality products, strong customer loyalty, and purpose-driven approach. In this role, she focuses on aligning talent strategy, culture, and leadership development with the brand's evolution and long-term growth. Her career spans retail, e-commerce, healthcare, and CPG, where she's led organizations through major transformations, M&A integration, operating model redesign, and executive succession. She's known for bringing value creation lens to people strategy, ensuring leadership structure and culture are tightly aligned to business performance. That is a great resume and bio.
Thank you.
So nice to meet you, Davida. I'm so excited to talk to you. We haven't met. I know that you're a woman in retail member, so we appreciate that. And we're thrilled to have you on. And we know a bunch of the folks at Hanna Andersson. We're such a great company. So to start, why don't we talk a little bit about your journey? What ultimately brought you to Hanna Andersson?
Yeah. So one, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and connect with you. So like many in the seat that I carry, my path into this work was never linear. So I started my career, or I started out, in college as a journalism major. And so as a fan of Oprah, um, drawn to storytelling and how information shapes people's understanding of the world. And so when I eventually realized that it would probably take me a little bit longer because of the way the courses were designed, I pivoted. And so I realized that organizations are just another kind of story. So I found my way into the people function at a specialty grocery operation in the Bay Area called Draeger's, where I was in my early 20s, already having exposure and interactions with the executive team, being in or having exposure to operations, finance, HR, and communications all simultaneously. And being in that environment was a kickstart for me in my career and really gave me a broader picture of how systems operate. And so I was learning really how the business runs. And then by 29, early married. And I was recruited to build an entire people function for a company called eAffiliate. And
Wow.
eAffiliate was in the space of computer accessories, components, and multi-channel retail and e-commerce. And so they are reported directly to the CEO. And Melissa, most people spend their 20s learning the edges of a function while I was being asked to actually architect one, which again was nervous sighting. So there was a I was nervous, but there was an excited degree of energy in having that ability. And so from there, 5 years, I was over at Dr. Pepper Snapple Group, which is now called Keurig Dr. Pepper, where I was deep in labor relations, multi-state operations. That's where I gained the M&A experience in acquiring bottlers. And then I earned my Six Sigma green belt at the same time. I think it was really one of the most formative parts of my career, because I was mentored by our then SVP and General Counsel, Mike Nelson, who led our largest and most complicated negotiations for the company. And so I'll never forget, like, visiting Plano, Texas, and meeting with Mike, and he gave me a copy of the book The Prince by Machiavelli.
Oh
Um,
God.
yeah, right. And so by doing so, Mike was teaching me that effective leadership requires understanding how the power in rooms works and not so much how we wish it would. So again, like, those lessons never left me. And personally speaking, during that same chapter, while my career was growing, I experienced some things in my personal life where I was navigating a divorce at the same time with a 3.5-year-old at home. So,
Wow.
like that period taught me that values matter, right? So like your personal values matter, organizational values matter, and the filter that it provided me in really needing to stand behind a brand, connect to its purpose, and feel something real, um, is very important to me. And so I have to have some emotional connection. And so that's what led me to Hanna Andersson. So like fast forwarding, every company post Dr. Pepper really has done that for me. And so I feel like the doors opened at the right moment in being able to take something authentic with purpose, such as that of Hannah, and build the systems to make the values live and breathe is the work that I absolutely love. And so truly the right moment to be here to do it.
Yeah. I love that story. It's so complicated. There's so many different parts to your background, but it does seem like you ended up in the right spot, especially with such a purpose-driven brand as Hannah Anderson.
100%.
That's so great. And I love, I think we might want to explain to the audience the term that you used, nervous sighted. Why don't you just quickly tell the
Oh,
audience?
yeah, yeah. Okay, so I am a mom of an only child. Devin is now 19. And so
Oh,
so Devin, when he was about 6 years old, he had his very first presentation, Melissa and everyone here. And he was like, Mom, I'm feeling nervous sighted. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such a great word. So nervous sighted is nervous and excited at the same time. And so yeah, it's something that's carried forward with me. And it's such a special naming convention of the
yeah.
complexities that you can feel in any moment in your life, right? So
It's so succinct, it's so complex in its simplicity, I guess. Um, okay, great. I'd love to talk a little bit about we've done some research about you. We learned a little bit about some of your writing. And you had written at one point that presence is a leadership practice, not a personality trait. And I love that. That could be a bumper sticker. So why don't you tell us what you mean by that
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
how you came up
Well,
with that?
well, I'm glad you love it. Um, and it's so simple but yet complicated. So presence really isn't something that you either have or you don't, right? It's something that you choose or don't choose in every interaction. So like in this moment with you and I, we're here. I'm deeply committed to you and our conversation, including whatever patterns and nuances that surfaces. And so, like I've watched very charismatic people um who can't hold space or capacity for other people because they were already three conversations ahead, right? So they weren't present. And then I've watched the more quieter people. Maybe they're less naturally commanding, right? I'm an introverted, extroverted person, but yet there's a propensity and aptitude to genuinely show and express care, right? In actively listening and not being distracted by an email or like a cell phone, or again, and being three conversations ahead.
Mhm.
So then, like, you are the most important person to me in this very moment, and I'm going to give you my full undivided attention and resisting the pull of being anywhere else other than here in this moment. And it's harder than it sounds, especially for the environment that we live in. And I think just in having the experience, like in 3 years in retail, being a digital brand, I know that it's even more complicated in retail, right? Because you're constantly monitoring the business. But the moments when I find myself slowing down, Melissa, relinquishing control, it's when I really can truly hear and feel the energy of the person or the people that are in the rooms with me. And so again, it's nothing more than another discipline, just like any other capability that we build.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's a practice.
It's a practice.
I feel like I've seen the idea before. It's like is are leaders born they're born not made? I think they're made
They're
personal.
made.
Yeah. It is a practice. And if you want to do it, you have to be committed to it. You know?
Be committed to it. It's not a one and done.
Yep.
It's not a one and done. In fact, I think presence will only grow again more and more complex as again we're continued to face with things with like a multi-generational workforce. Like again, I'm going to reference my son again. My degree of listening to him has to be activated in a completely nuanced way, right? That can only be activated for me to engage with him in the right way versus that of my boss or like even my peer or someone on my team.
Yep. I love it. So I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about how you describe culture as the foundational system of the company. And you've also talked about the importance of sort of aligning HR with business strategy, or culture as a business strategy. Tell me more about that because I feel like there needs to be more discussion around that topic.
Yeah. Um, so it's interesting. I appreciated the way you framed that because culture is often treated as the output
Hmm.
of a business strategy, Melissa, right? And it's something that folks often tend to after the real decisions are made, right? And I think it's backwards. Culture, I think it really is more of an upstream, input, and it determines how fast you can move, whether your strategy can travel beyond the executive team, and whether people flag problems early or wait until they become super expensive to you. And there's so many things that are folded into that term expensive, like from a labor, from an operational standpoint, from a customer standpoint. And so at Hanna, we have something that we've coined cultivate excellence. And cultivate excellence at Hanna sits as a foundational strategic priority beneath everything else the business is trying to deliver. And so the definition of it, um, I'll share, is all about aligning our purpose and values with disciplined execution, operating rigor, and sustained business impact. And so, what I find meaningful about that is its structural positioning because it sits beneath all four of our enterprise priorities, right? So, like, it spans the full entire width of all of our four business priorities. And so it was deliberate by design for us at Hanna, um, and to make the choice for it to enable everything else. So again, culture is not something that the people function advocates for from the side, but it's named as the condition for how we drive performance at more of an enterprise level. I can also share that going a little bit deeper, I built our people strategy around four pillars. It's purpose, belonging, connection, and performance. And that is the operating framework driving core elements of cultivating excellence for us at Hanna.
Mm, that's amazing. That's unusual, I think, for retail. I mean, would you think that's a little bit unusual, or I don't know.
You know, I don't know, but I will say yes, and I think it's all a matter of how um you as a leader, right, who might hold responsibility for culture, and we all do, right? It's how you orient, it's how you influence, and it's how you drive your degree of credibility beyond just HR operating practices and really trying to understand the business. I think the other thing is your CEO has to really be the accomplice in the car with you, right? So, you it's true, right?
Like,
You really have to have a CEO who um understands the value of culture and who understands the value of people, the value of having the right talent, and can provide an adequate degree of like air cover in order to shape the cultural transformation that they may be asking for.
love that. Love that. Um, Sticking with the HR sort of topics here, how do you feel HR has changed since you started in your career? Whatever you want to add to that.
So my career again started in retail
Yeah.
when I was over at Draeger's before spanning healthcare, CPG, and the cultural institutions and the consumer brands. And so I think the breadth for me was deliberate and very relevant to the answer because the patterns across all these various sectors are more consistent than they are different. And so what's fundamentally changed, Melissa, is that the expectation of the people leader and the function is also different. And so the best organizations now expect their CPOs to be a business leader who can lead through the business and its people simultaneously. and not just the HR practitioner who supports from the side, someone
Mhm.
who's not just putting together a great benefits plan, someone who's not just managing, like employee relations.
Yeah.
Right. So you really need to be. So again, back at Dr. Pepper, I also learned that you have to be a credible proactivist, and the way things are going now, the way you gain more credibility is by being in the rooms where the business is discussed, right? So how do you understand the data? How do you understand the external factors that are coming? How do you understand the supply chain nuances that, like our world experiences starting 2 years ago with the tariffs, with all the other things? And then all that your sourcing and supply chain team has to go through in order to produce and manufacture a beautiful product for the consumer. And so those are two different orientations whatsoever. One is upstream, being present when the strategy is actually formed, and the other really is downstream in just being handed decisions after the fact and asked to implement them well. So again, like I think it's changed to the former in really being involved in decisions and conversations when the strategy is being formed.
Right, which is a great thing.
That's a
I think
great
that's
thing.
yeah. And given that, I mean, how do you measure success as an HR leader?
Um, it's a good question. And so I'll start with the outcome. And you may have researched this as well because I'll name it as something that I'm very proud of. We gained an 8-point engagement score increase in a 12-month period with a 95% survey participation, at a time when engagement scores are declining across most industries. And
Wow.
again, to me, that's a result worth naming. In the spring, we ran our survey again, and we saw the results hold and grow, with participation climbing to 96%. Um, and a 96% participation rate is actually unheard of. And so that means to me that folks actually believe that we're actually responding and acting appropriately. Management moved to 82, work and life blend 81, innovation 80. And one number that I particularly care about is the percentage of people who feel they've been given the opportunity to see and discuss previous results. That jumped by 9. And so
Wow. That's great.
exactly, it's demonstrable of a closed loop cycle that's actually happening in real time. And to sustain it, I think I've moved beyond just looking at engagement as that one lagging indicator, but now leaning more into having more attention on the leading indicators. And so the real time signals that can really get in the way if you're stagnant, or if you take too long. So we've introduced another way to basically gain a pulse on our overall operational rigor. And so we're asking questions now to our senior leaders, and are trade-offs surfacing early enough to act on, or are they only visible once they become a problem? Uh,
Wow.
are people escalating at the right level or sitting on them until they're expensive? Um, are we adjusting quickly enough when our own assumptions turn out to be wrong? And
Mm,
so these questions um, are really telling us whether or not our organization is functioning as a system in real
mm.
time. Um, and they're what I believe will keep us moving forward on the right trajectory. So that's just, I think, one element. But I mean, just weaving in, real time, and really elevating our senior leaders is something magical to me.
Yeah, I mean, and I love the idea of, putting kind of like data around it or tangible ideas around something that could be a little elusive.
Completely.
Yeah. Is that something that you created in-house or did you work?
Yes,
Yeah, that's great.
it is. It
Um,
is.
that's something that
Um,
I think other companies could learn to do or would like to learn about.
yeah, yeah. Well, happy to share. Happy to share.
Um, I wanted to jump ahead a little bit. One of the things I loved when I read your bio was about your work with succession planning and executive leadership. Obviously, women in retail, one of our missions is to help women grow in their careers and become executive leaders. and succession planning is always on the minds of our CEO members. So I would love to hear your thoughts around that. And one question I thought of was maybe, what separates organizations that have successfully built leadership pipelines from those that are constantly scrambling to fill key roles?
Okay, I love this question. It holds so much complexity,
Yeah.
and it does, right? And some folks can be alarmed by it because, like those who are alarmed, they feel, oh my gosh, like it could be loaded. So, I mean, for me, whether or not like I'm advising a CEO or a board on succession or building a pipeline internally, to me, the diagnostic is the same. I think it has to be the same. And so the organizations that scramble are almost always the ones focused on filling today's role, Melissa, rather than developing tomorrow's leader.
Mm.
They're out there, like assessing candidates against like current technical requirements and then wonder why their pipeline is empty when the next gap opens. And so by that time the need is kind of urgent, like the system is being pressed, it's compressed, it's already too late to build something. And what I'd push for is that organizations need to look at more of a focus on behavioral competencies over technical skills, because technical skills can be developed and, quite honestly, in some cases, augmented now by AI. And so, in my mind, what's harder to develop in someone who doesn't already have it is the mindset that treats ambiguity as an invitation rather than a threat, the curiosity to keep learning when the environment shifts, and the ability to see beyond their own function and understand how their decisions land two or three steps below.
Mm.
Um, I think that those are really the traits that predict whether someone can carry greater enterprise responsibility.
Mm.
And they show up in how someone behaves under pressure and not what they already know.
Yes. That's so true. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. And then I'll name, if I may. I think there's also this global AI readiness question that like sits out there. And I'll just say that when building our AI champions network at Hanna, we're not only again calling on those who have some degree of like technical ability, we're looking for people who have a high degree of curiosity, who have that learning orientation and the peer influence to bring others along. And so again, the behavioral competency comes first, and then the technical fluency will follow. And in my mind, that only makes the work easier. And quite frankly, it helps you and move faster rather than doing the opposite and introducing tools and not really having a strategy or, like some concept or an enterprise narrative in mind before you introduced or deploy tools.
Mm. That's a great example. It's funny that you mentioned AI because I did want to talk a little bit about that in my next question. How are you approaching AI as in part of in the HR department, chief people department? What are some risks and opportunities? I mean, it's a question everyone's talking about now.
Um, it is. And so I guess it was a natural segue. So like
Yeah.
for us, we've been deliberate and really governance forward about this from the beginning. And that started for me about 2.5 years ago, beginning with how we equipped my own team and working to replace tools that had limited AI capability across our HRIS, our ATS, and performance and engagement platforms. So from the org level, I co-lead our enterprise AI steering committee alongside our CTO, and AI is now actively embedded across 3 domains and growing. So
Wow.
growth and customer intelligence, workflows, we're talking about that now, and of course, people and talent, as I'd mentioned, doing a
Mhm.
complete switch over starting about 2.5 years ago. Um, that breadth in my mind matters because it means every org has skin in the game. And the narrative that we established at the outset is that AI and Hanna is focused on augmenting human judgment and creativity. And going beyond the infrastructure conversation, I reset the expectations for how my team has to operate at the start of the year. So explicitly, we're building a team of coaches, we're building a team of consultants. No longer are we going to be firmly identified as administrators or processors. And so every initiative that we've launched is all about moving my team members into relationships with the business where they are now advising, they are now developing and partnering and not just executing.
Great. Yeah. So it sounds like AI is incorporated into the entire company, and in your division in particular, and you're involved in it from the broad perspective. But can you talk a little bit more about the HR department and how that's being incorporated?
For sure, for sure. So, um, again, 2.5 years ago, I recognized that we didn't have the right systems or capabilities. Again, keeping up on the pulse on what's happening,
Yep.
like in the outer world. Do we have even the right systems that can keep up to help pull us away from some of these more like manual administrative tasks?
Yes.
So it started by replacing some of our systems, and so happy to name, we went from Bamboo HR to Paylocity for a more connected payroll and HRIS experience. We are partnered with Lever. Lever is our ATS platform, and they have a host of introductory AI elements and components that are helping us out, right? I mean,
Ah,
I'm a talent partner or recruiting department of like one, right? And so
right.
we need that augmented support. Coupled on top of Lever, because of, like where we are with being a lean operating team, we brought in Bright Hire. And so Bright Hire is another AI tool that we stacked on to Lever to help us sort of like as a recruitment coordinator. So interview scheduling, they help shape and craft out the hiring manager questions. And so we've been dipping into this for quite a while in my department. And so coupled with that, as I've mentioned, it also meant that I needed to elevate and have my team step up their game and show up a little bit differently too, because now, right, we're augmenting some of the more manual, some of the more clunky, right, some of the more administrative heavy elements with AI in order for them to start to unleash in becoming more coaching oriented and more consultative just in their overall delivery and how we show up for the business.
Mm.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, that's super clear. Yeah. You're using the tools to just help your department manage things more efficiently is basically what it comes down to, it
That's
sounds
what
like.
it comes down to,
Yeah.
right? Well, I think again, like, we're not going to compound. I just firmly believe that, we can't compound um ineffectiveness or inefficiency, but with adding headcount if your systems are not fully functional, right? And so how do
Yeah.
we continue to challenge ourselves to get better, and not just add headcount if your systems are not functioning the way they should?
Yep. I love it. So we have a couple more questions. I'm really enjoying chatting with you. One is, what is one piece of advice you would leave with women in leading in retail right now, especially those building culture?
Yeah. So the truth for me is that complexity, uncertainty, and the intensity of the work are not temporary conditions that you'll eventually get through. And so they are the environment that we operate in. And so, one, again, personally speaking, is not to wait for things to stabilize before you lead boldly. I think the more effective you'll be, again, we're managing a multi generational workforce with different relationships with work, belonging, and technology. And then I'll just add consumer behavior is also shifting faster than most operating models can track. And so again, like while you're, operating from a place of people first also includes consumer behavior. And so how do you understand how all of those things come together in complicating how you navigate the world today? I think beyond that, I will say get comfortable being curious.
Mm,
learning and being able to reinvent yourself. Again, there is no I've arrived or arrival point in the work that we do. And the leaders today who stay relevant are the ones who treat their own development with the same intentionality they bring to their teams. Um, and then, of course, no matter what circumstance you're faced with, there's always going to be this voice in your head. So also monitor the degree of self-talk you have,
I
because
love
like any habit, it can be interrupted and redirected.
I love that. I love all of that. That's great. Get comfortable with being curious. I love that.
You have to get comfortable being curious.
So closing, what are you most excited about? Or I was going to say, what are you most excited to build next at Hanna Andersson? But maybe what are you most excited about in general at Hanna Andersson? What's coming down the pike?
That's a good question. I think I'm most excited and passionate about right now is, to be honest with you, is the leadership capability that we're starting to build across our executive team, across our senior leaders, across our managers and our ICs, because it'll make everything else all that more sustainable. So I'm excited about where we are right now.
Mm.
It's not only about momentum, but I used the word earlier, it's about reinvention. And, like I think once we continue to embed some of these practices, AI again will keep accelerating. Workforce expectations are going to keep shifting.
Mm.
The market pressure is not stopping. It's not going away. It won't
Mhm.
ease. Again,
Retail is
like
always going to be challenging.
it's always going to be challenging. And, the leaders who make it work and will matter most in that environment aren't the ones who know most about the technology, but they're the ones that can hold a higher degree of human complexity of an org while the ground keeps moving underneath them. And so
Yeah.
again, like it's the work that we're doing right now with our senior leaders is what's energizing me most. And I'm excited to continue the work in building and shaping and having them, elevate and work across lines more, because that's where it's headed, right? Like with the introduction of things like Claude Cowork,
Yeah.
other tools that are out there, I think there's a yearning for it. So, at Hannah, I think we're beyond the push, but now we are experiencing pull, for like our technology team to say, hey, help me out. I'm waiting over here. Like I love Claude Cowork. And so I think we're now experiencing more of a demand.
I love it. Yeah, I do. I feel like there's a lot of complexities right now, always in retail, but just right now. But I think there's a lot of excitement, you know, eh, challenges, but excitement. That's how I feel. That's what we've been hearing from our members as well. So all good. Well, I'm so
What's one
excited.
thing that you're excited about in the retail sector?
Well, I am excited about uh, I'm excited about AI. I feel like I've been hearing we speak to a lot of people, and there's so many cool applications out there. There's so many ways to make your job so much easier. I actually feel like people are not as afraid of it as they used to be. I think people are starting to understand how it can really be helpful, and there's so many cool things that can happen. If you really spend some time with it. I mean, it's funny. That's actually something I'm going to be doing this weekend. My husband and I are going to have a sit down, and he's going to show me all the stuff he's been doing with Claude, because he just feels like there's so much out there we haven't even touched the surface on. So
No.
I'm excited about that. And I'm just excited about the industry in general. I just think there's a lot of cool experiential retail we've been hearing about. I think people are starting to shop again. Um, I don't know. I've been hearing positive things about the upcoming holiday season. So we'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. I know business has been great for us. So
That's great.
just super excited, super excited. And thank you. Thank you. And thank you for welcoming my question to you.
Oh yes, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for this podcast. I thought it was great, and hopefully we'll meet IRL at some point.
For sure. For sure. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please go to womeninretail.com/podcast for show notes. Women in Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, SiriusXM's Pandora, YouTube, and YouTube Music. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate, review, and subscribe. Lastly, if you're a female retail leader interested in joining our community at Women in Retail Leadership Circle, visit womeninretail.com/apply. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Women in Retail Talks.